It's Patrick Hutzel from IntensiveCareHotline.com, where we instantly improve the lives for families of critically ill patients in intensive care so that you can make informed decisions, have peace of mind, real power, real control, and so that you can influence decision making fast, even if you're not a doctor or a nurse in intensive care. This is another episode of Your Questions Answered, and in last week's episode, I answered another question in this series of questions from my client Steve. And the question last week was part 2 of my 73-year-old mom had a stroke and is intubated in intensive care. She can't come off the ventilator and the breathing tube. Can she have a tracheostomy and go home and have intensive care at home? You can check out last week's episode by clicking on the link below this video. In this week's episode of Your Questions Answered, I want to answer the next question from my client Steve, which are excerpts from phone and email counseling and consulting sessions with me. And the question this week is part 3 of my 73-year-old mom had a stroke and is intubated in intensive care. She can't come off the ventilator and the breathing tube. Can she have a tracheostomy and go home and have intensive care at home? So Steve continues with his mother's situation as follows. Steve writes, "Hi Patrick, just wanted to update you. My mum is moving into the ward today. Her breathing tube came out 2 days ago. We had a meeting last Thursday with a second stroke specialist, and in particular one of the doctors was a lot more optimistic and said, while not to get too excited neurologically, she's improving. Her left side was getting a lot stronger and her breathing was getting a lot stronger too. We are now 3 weeks down the track, and therefore it goes to show ICU patients deserve more time. It's exactly what you told us from the beginning. This is after one of the doctors was saying she will pass away in the next few days, only in the first week of my mum's admission to intensive care. And another doctor was saying her chances of breathing again are next to 0. It really goes to show that giving up is never an option, and it also goes to show that seeking outside counsel, consulting and advocacy from yourself has already paid off and potentially saved my mother's life for now. Especially your positive attitude, vibe and energy, as well as your clinical guidance, gave us the courage to not take no for an answer, and also your guidance around how to wean a patient off the ventilator and the breathing tube put us in a position to keep asking all the right questions and not let them get away with their negativity and their doom and gloom. We would not have known as a family what to do in a situation like this, and we probably would have given up too early, and we would have only listened to the doctors, which quite frankly would have been disastrous. You absolutely know your stuff, and you seem to know and understand the dynamics as well as the clinical issues in intensive care inside out, and it has given us and my mum the best chances to get her out of intensive care alive. Thank you. I'll keep you updated, but really thank you so much for the advice and support. You offered so much clarity and guidance at a time of extreme uncertainty. Speak soon, from Steve." And if you're watching this and you are thinking about getting one-on-one counseling and consulting with me, go and check out the options at the top of the website. Click on the link and select from the options that works best for you. So here's my response to Steve. "Hi Steve, thank you for your update and thank you for your kind words. I'm very pleased to hear your mum has finally come off the ventilator and the breathing tube and is now even at the point where she can leave intensive care. Well done, and give yourself a pat on your back for being so strong, for standing up for what you believed in, and for challenging the perceived power and the perceived authority of the intensive care team. You are now officially in the 1% bracket of families in intensive care who really get it and who make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence. 99% of the families of critically ill patients in intensive care continue walking in the dark and they continue to be intimidated by the intensive care team, and therefore they will never be in a position where they make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence. I'm even more pleased to hear that you have put your mother in a position where she was able to prove to the intensive care team that she can and wants to live. Well done. Even if I sound like a broken record, intensive care teams have hidden agendas that families in intensive care know nothing about unless they start doing their own research like you have done, or you start talking to somebody like me who knows intensive care inside out. It also goes to show that intensive care teams simply don't want to give their vulnerable patients the time to recover in their own time, which is often what is desperately needed. It's something that I keep saying over and over again, and the number of people that could have survived intensive care if families knew what questions to ask, what to look for, and if they knew that what you see is not always what you get in intensive care, they would probably be more aware of the dynamics in intensive care. Critically ill patients in intensive care are individuals, and they therefore need to be given individual treatment and individual time frames for recovery, and not time frames that are convenient for the intensive care unit's financial budgets, financial goals, or for their bed management agendas. The fact of the matter is that after nearly 20 years intensive care nursing experience in 3 different countries, where I also worked as a nurse unit manager in intensive care for over 5 years, I believe I have seen it all, and I understand and I know the dynamics. The games intensive care teams play, the possibility for patients, as well as the possibilities for families, I know it inside out. I really hope it's all upwards for you and for your mother from now on. However, please keep in mind that if her respiratory center in the brain is affected from the stroke, she might end up drowsy with high carbon dioxide levels and potentially going into respiratory distress or even type 2 respiratory failure. Excuse me, it's great your mum has gone this far, but I don't think she's out of the woods yet. And I do believe she will need neurorehabilitation. 3 weeks in intensive care would have deconditioned her. She would have lost muscles and weight. And now that she's off the ventilator, it'll be a lot easier for you and for your family to find out what her cognition is exactly. They will also need to start mobilizing her and get her to walk again with physical therapy. She may need a speech therapy review to help her with speech and swallow and so forth. Be patient and persistent with your mother's recovery. It might take time. Many thanks again for your updates and sharing your story. You are giving other families in intensive care hope, and it will encourage them to not give up, to keep asking the right questions, and to keep asking for what they want and also how to get it. I hope you and your family will be fine without my help, guidance, and counsel. And obviously, if you need help again, please contact me. Thank you. So, how can you become the best advocate for your critically ill loved one? How can you make informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence quickly whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care? You get to that all-important feeling of making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence when you download your free instant impact report now by entering your email below. In your free instant impact report, you learn quickly how to make informed decisions, get peace of mind, real power and real control, and how you can influence decision making fast whilst your loved one is critically ill in intensive care. Your free instant impact report gives you in-depth insight that you must know whilst your loved one is critically ill or is even dying in intensive care. Sign up and download your free instant impact report now by entering your email below. In your free instant impact report, you learn how to speak the secret intensive care language so that the doctors and the nurses know straight away that you are an insider and that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care. In your free report, you will also discover how to ask the doctors and the nurses the right questions, discover the many competing interests in intensive care, and how your critically ill loved one's treatment may depend on those competing interests. How to eliminate fear, frustration, stress, struggle, and vulnerability even if your loved one is dying. You get 5 mind-blowing tips and strategies helping you to get on the right path to making informed decisions, get peace of mind, control, power, and influence in your situation. You'll get real-world examples that you can easily adapt to your and your critically ill loved one's situation. How to stop being intimidated by the intensive care team and how you will be seen as equals. You'll get crucial behind-the-scenes insight so that you know and understand what's really happening in intensive care and how you need to manage doctors and nurses in intensive care, and it's not what you think. Thank you for tuning into this week's Your Questions Answered episode, and I'll see you again next week in another update. Make sure you also check out our blog section for more tips and strategies, or send me an email to support@intensivecarehotline.com with your questions. Or you can call me, find international phone numbers on the top of the website. Also, check out our ebook section where you get more ebooks, videos, and audio recordings, and where you can also get one-on-one counseling and consulting with me over the phone, via Skype, or via email by clicking on the tabs on the top of the website. This is Patrick Hutzel from intensivecarehotline.com, and I'll see you again next week in another update.